الرابط. This video is about not using the tools or the equipments when you ride the horse, and using the equipments, using the tools, and with time you stop using them. What is the difference? In my opinion, when your way or style of riding doesn't depend on a certain tool or equipment as a main tool in your way of riding, it's completely different than another way or style of riding that depends on an equipment or a tool. And with time, when the horse totally accepts what you want and you get what you want through or by the equipment or the tool, you stop using it. There's a big difference, because in the first case there is no equipment that you depend on in the style itself, so changing the equipments or the tools will not affect the style or the way of riding. In other ways of riding, even the good ones, sometimes if you take a certain equipment or tool out and stop or prevent the rider from using it or them, he will not be able to keep riding in that style or way of riding, which means, in my opinion, it's not a complete way of riding. It's a bad way of riding in my book, or in my opinion. For example, some ways of riding, without mentioning names, depend on the spurs, on the saddle, on the martingale, on lunging, and on the whip or the stick a lot. Now, as I said before, a tool is a tool. If you use it in a correct way, it's correct. If you use it in a wrong way, it's wrong. So it's not about just using it, it's about how you use it. A lot of good riders, horse masters or horse whispers, use spurs in a correct way, and a lot of bad riders use it in the wrong way. The same goes for saddles, bits, martingales, and all other equipments and tools. But what I'm saying is this: even the good ones who use it in a correct way, so just using it is not wrong, or you can't call it wrong, are still depending on it in their way or style of riding. So the spurs, the saddle, the martingale, the lunging the horse, and the whip or the stick is a main thing in their way of riding, main steps, main options they cannot get rid of. And after getting what they want from the horse by using all these equipments and tools, you can stop using them. So I can stop using the spurs, and the horse will accept normal, let's say, signals from my leg, from my ankle, and I can stop using the saddle and ride the horse bareback, and the horse totally accepts my, let's say, orders, and I can direct the horse and stop him easily, so it's not very hard to ride him bareback. And I can remove the martingale because the horse already bends his neck and gives me what I want, and I already lunged the horse, so he, let's say, is not in his full energy when I ride him or when I lead him after lunging him. And I can get rid of the stick or the whip sometimes if he can connect between my hand movement and the stick, so I can do the move I do with the stick or the whip with my hand alone. That happens with time, a couple of months or even a couple of years sometimes. But if I say from the beginning till the end, from A to Z, from the moment or the second you start dealing or training or breaking the horse, dealing with the horse or breaking him or starting him or training him, until you finish, I will prevent you, not allow you to use a whip or spurs or a saddle or a martingale or lunging the horse. Think about it for a second. That's what I do, that's what I did, that's what I will do for years, a lot of horses. Now think about it for a second. If you are in this situation, in this position, and you are forced, of course when I say forced, by yourself, you force yourself, no one forced you, you chose it. You force yourself not to use all these things from A to Z, from the moment you went inside the paddock, to the horse, to the stallion, to the mare, to the foal, to the filly, until you gallop the horse, dealing with him in the paddock or the stall with the body language, leading the horse, starting the horse, riding the horse, walking, trotting, cantering, and galloping. All these things are done without lunging at all, without using the whip or the stick at all, without using the martingale or the spurs or the saddle. Count the ways of riding or the styles of riding that can actually still be used if you use them without using these tools. Even the good ones, even the correct ones, a lot of them will disappear with time. Because it's a main thing in that way of riding to use these equipments and tools. Now the rider will keep riding, of course, but he will have to find a different way of riding. That's why I don't believe that these ways are natural horsemanship, in my opinion. Everyone calls his way or style, her or his way of style or style of riding true horsemanship or real horsemanship or natural horsemanship. In my opinion, natural horsemanship, that means you use natural stuff, natural things in your nature and in his nature. Using equipments and tools to help you to control him is against nature. So it cannot be natural, because if I just take one spur, not spur, two spurs, if I take one of the spurs and prevent the rider from riding with it for, let's say, 2 or 3 months, even the good ones, they will have to change their way or style of riding. So when I say every single thing I do in body language, in leading and in riding is in these hands. It's all about the accuracy and the timing of the correct hand reaction. Stopping, moving back, side walking, controlling the inside neck, controlling the inside shoulder or the outside neck and outside shoulder. Desensitizing, controlling the horse when he spooks from something, controlling the horse in front of other stallions and mares and horses, controlling the horse in, let's say, very hard situations or positions when he disagrees with you, when he wants something and you want something completely different. You totally control him just by depending on your hand accuracy. Nothing else. Just you, the horse and the rope, or you, the horse and a bridle. That means this style of riding cannot be changed if you change the equipment and the tool, because the equipments and the tools that you are using are none, zero. Now the bridle is an equipment, is a tool. If someone says stop using the bridle or stop using, let's say, the bit on the horse's mouth, all the other ways of riding, who use the spurs and the martingale and the saddle and the whip and the stick or the whip and lunging the horse, use the bit. So if you stop using the bit and they stop using the bit, that means you will use the rope. You depend on your hand accuracy, which is your way of riding. You did not change anything, you just changed the bit. But if you force them to change all the equipments, including the bit, and just use the rope, their way of riding will be finished. Now, what's the point behind talking about this issue or subject, in my opinion? It's simple. No one can actually develop you or fix your way of riding or make you become better when your way of riding doesn't depend on equipments and their way of riding does. Again, they cannot develop your way of riding and make you become better when your way of riding doesn't depend on equipments and tools at all. All the horses you deal with them with a rope or a bridle, and that's it. Just my hand. Someone who totally depends on the spurs and the saddle and the martingale and the whip and the lunging cannot develop me, cannot make me become better. It's impossible. Unless I start using the equipments and the tools that he uses and start doing the steps that he's doing. So to do their way of riding or style of riding, you have to do the, let's say, stuff they do which is against your way of riding. But if you teach them your way of riding, you don't force them to change anything, because you already use your way of riding in the toughest or the hardest situation without using equipments and tools. So of course, if I do the same exact way of riding in an easier situation with a saddle and lunging and a whip and a stick and using the spurs, it's going to be much easier. So this way of riding can develop any rider who rides in a different way of riding. Other ways of riding cannot develop this way of riding. When I say this way of riding, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the natural horsemanship, in my opinion, which is what I call the Arabian way of riding, the old Arabian way of riding. As I said before, the current Arabian way of riding sucks. It's very bad. It's, in my opinion, a random way of riding. You just ride the horse randomly in the wrong way. But when I talk about the old Arabian style of riding that they used in battles and wars, it was one of the, if not the best ways of riding of all time. That's my opinion about using the equipments and the tools. Using them, then stop using them, stopping using them with time is completely different than not using them at all from the beginning. A way of riding that doesn't depend on equipments and tools is completely different than a way of riding that depends on equipments and tools, and with time they can stop using them and show you a video of 5 minutes or 5 seconds without using the equipments and tools. Of course, both ways can be considered correct in my opinion, but this one in my opinion is more natural and closer to the horse's nature and is closer to the old Arabian way of riding or style. Yeah.